A lot of people ask us how we can afford this life, so today we're gonna try and give our best and most honest answers.
In this video, we'll talk about these 5 topics.
What we did before this life, how we saved money, how we travel cheaply, how much unknown plans will cost us, are we scared about money?
We didn't leave Denmark because we hated our life there or anything. We simply just wanted to get out of the hamster wheel, out of the everyday life, like wake up 6 a.m., go to work, work 8 hours and come home and then continue the same thing over and over. We wanted to go out into the world and explore, doing our version of life. Basically, we're chasing a life that feels endless.
We just didn't want to end up regretting all the things we didn't do, so instead we're risking everything on trying to do everything we dream of, and now we're gonna explain how we can afford just that.
What we did before this life, back in 2024, we both graduated our educations as 27-year-olds. I have a bachelor in marketing management, and after that I got a full-time job at a workwear company in Denmark called Mascot International.
I have a master's degree in psychology and worked as a psychologist for about a year. Unfortunately, I was in an accident, so for almost all of 2025, I was on a long-term sick leave. And one of the big questions, how we saved money. Well, the plans actually started already in 2022. We started talking about moving abroad, started talking about, okay, what does that mean for us? How much did we need to save? We also started planning when to sell what, because we might as well sell all our belongings. We're not going to need them anyway, and get as much out of that as possible. So we made a plan for that and ended up selling everything. The last item we sold was our car in late December 2025, and we left on December 31st. So yeah.
As Dita just said, before we sold everything, we worked our asses off with of course our full-time jobs in the end, but before that, while we studied, we also had multiple jobs on the side. She had up to 4 jobs at the same time, simply to try and save enough money for us to do this. Obviously, we didn't know all the way back in 2022 that this was the exact thing we were supposed to do or wanted to do, but we knew that we wanted to do something other than staying in the hamster wheel back in Denmark. Even though we tried to save as much money as we could, we obviously still wanted to live our life. So we still went on vacation, went out for a beer, but maybe not as often as we would have if we didn't have these plans. We tried to not spend unnecessary money.
We moved out of our apartment in June 2025 to live with Benjamin's family. Now, it was actually really nice though, but we thought the easiest way to save a lot of money on expenses was not having as many. So we lived in a room at his family for just about half a year, and it actually saved us 8,500 USD. That's quite an amount we could save up from that. That's basically how we saved up. Sold everything, limited our expenses. Still living life, you never know what happens, but obviously we didn't need to buy as much stuff because we were going to sell it anyways. Just to clarify, we have met some people who think that just because we're from Denmark, we're born with a golden spoon in our butt. A Danish saying for being rich and coming from a rich family. That is so absolutely not the case. We have both worked so hard to make every penny, to make our dreams come true, and daring going on this adventure together. Although we have the most amazing loved ones who from time to time send some money for us to have a cold beer or enjoy a burger or favorite dish, but other than that, this is all us.
How we travel cheaply? Here in Costa Rica, we're doing what's called the Workaway. Essentially, it's an online platform where you can look for places to help out. And the same thing we did here is here in Tirana. They're looking for a couple to help out with some of the cabins, and in exchange we get to learn something about the culture, both where the owners are from and their culture, but also the local culture here in Costa Rica. All of the nature, you know, how do all of these plants grow, and like which of them are edible and which should we keep away from, but also about some of the animals here. So this is a way for us to get to know the culture much better than if we were simply living in a hotel for 2 weeks. So we're here for 3.5 months in Costa Rica, and here at Trivana for about 2.5 months in total. We do get accommodation for free in exchange for our services as well, but of course all the food and everything we do pay for ourselves. So that's basically a cheap way for us to explore Costa Rica.
The adventure after living in Costa Rica for 3.5 months is through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. Some people think that we're gonna stay at hotels along the way for 4 to 5 months, eat expensive meals. Well, no, just plain no. We're gonna sleep in a tent and we're gonna be hiker trash. We're gonna eat ramen noodles, mashed potatoes, shitty food. Yeah, we're not gonna live nicely. And we're gonna wear the same clothes. That in itself is gonna be quite cheap. Of course, we have to go into town maybe once every week to get some resupply, maybe have an overnight or something, but it's gonna be very limited what we have in expenses while through hiking. Oh yeah, and one of the bigger expenses with through hiking is of course getting all the gear, because at least us, we want all the ultralight stuff and we want all the right stuff, and we're kind of nerdy with that. But we knew that already back in 2022, so we've actually put the items on our wish list for birthday, Christmas, and even wedding presents. So our blind banana bags are actually a wedding present from family and friends.
We are going to New Zealand for a working holiday visa, so where we can stay up to a year. It gives us the opportunity to both travel the country and also occasionally work. So we're gonna live in a camper van where we're gonna eat and sleep and cook food and all of that stuff. And that's gonna help us limit the expenses we have in New Zealand, while also being a good opportunity for us to go around the country and explore both the North and South Islands. It will also help with the opportunities to get jobs in different places. We want to try picking fruit. We want to avocado or help out a vineyard and stuff like that. We know we're not gonna fill up our bank accounts with tons of money, but it will help us just save a little bit so we can extend and go to the next country, the next adventure we want to do. Whether that's sailing around the world, someone wants to go to Morea. So that might be on the bucket list for sure.
And we're also what's called slow traveling, which means that, or at least for us, in our leisure time, we're doing everything for free. We're walking around, exploring, seeing the wildlife and nature, and the few trips we've been on have been paid for by friends and family as Christmas presents. Use public transport with buses. That's quite cheap in Costa Rica, but we're walking around and exploring that way. Get a bit of training for the PCT. Other than that, we of course have expenses like phone bills and insurance. We're always trying to find the most cheap way to have that, but we're not gonna not have an insurance. How much our plans will cost us? Well, here in Costa Rica, as we told you, we're primarily doing Workaway, so we're not paying anything for a place to stay. We're paying for the living expenses, and it's actually quite expensive here in Costa Rica. Supermarket prices are pretty high, but as you can see, we're living off rice and beans and vegetables, eggs and fruit, and we get coffee from our hosts. So
as for the PCT, halfwayanywhere.com is doing an annual hiker survey for some of the biggest thru hikes in the US. That also means the Pacific Crest Trail. And in 2025, the average thru hiker had expenses for roughly around $10,000 which equals to something about 8,500 euros for the entire thru hike. And that means I think it's about 148 days they average take. That's the number, of course, that we have also calculated with about $10,000 per person. Those money typically covers occasionally hotel stays or motel stays whenever we're in town, but then mostly it's just going to be for food, snacks,
gear replacements
such as new shoes, roughly we're going to be using 4 to 5 pairs of shoes throughout the hike. So yeah, that's what the $10,000 will cover. As for New Zealand, the requirement by the government to enter the country on a working holiday visa is that you, as a minimum, have for each of us about $2,500 or 2,100 euros, so you ensure that you have something to live off before getting a job and everything.
To sum it up, all we saved up for is not much for Costa Rica, and they're roughly $10,000 per person for the PCT, and what was it for the New Zealand?
2,500.
Yeah, 2,500, and that's it. Yeah, so we're gonna hopefully earn a lot of money in New Zealand.
Speaking of, let us know in the comment section if you have any good suggestions or must-dos in New Zealand, or for any future adventures after that. We'd love to hear from you. Are we scared about money?
Terrified. No, just kidding.
Yeah, just kidding. What's the worst that can happen? That's kind of become our saying whenever we're in doubt about something. Like, what's the worst that can happen if we do this or if we don't do this? I think the worst case scenario we can foresee is us going back to Denmark. Either if we have the money for it, get an apartment, stay with family until we do have a job and some money, and then we continue the life we had before we left. So in reality, not the worst backup plan.
Plan A is, of course, as we just talked about, going to New Zealand and earning a shit ton of money doing shit ton labor. Yeah, probably not that much. We're not going to earn that much, but at least for the next adventure to come. Plan B, if that doesn't work or we don't save up enough, we can also do a working holiday in Canada. And we want to go to Canada, but we can wait till we're 35. Yeah, we're hopefully gonna postpone that plan for a couple of years. Plan C, go to Europe, get a job somewhere in Europe. The further north you go, the more you can earn, but we like Portugal. Or dream plan, maybe someday make a little bit from this, or yeah, just something of our chosen life. That would be awesome. To put it pretty roughly, there is a lot of different opportunities for us. We don't stress too much about it. Of course, there is uncertainty, and sometimes it can be a little bit, okay, what do we do if we run out of money? But we're not the first people in the world to do this. We're definitely not the last people, and we have the most supportive family and friends, so it's all gonna work out, and we have each other. So we'll be fine, and we don't need luxury, and we don't need to have several $100,000 to make this work. We can live off rice and beans even if we have to beg for it. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. If you want to follow how we build our life abroad, we highly encourage you to subscribe and tag along this crazy, daring adventure with us.
And thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment if you have any remarks, questions, or suggestions to future content. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.